Hey everybody, this is Ketchup here, and today is a beginner's introduction to Mortal Kombat 4. A game that is so misunderstood, I would say, by a lot of people, but once you know how to play the game, I personally have always really enjoyed it. It's the perfect blend of fun, silly, and weird in general, but at a high level, has some pretty fun stuff to offer that is different from its previous installments. This video hopes to go over the Layer 1. I am not a competitive Mortal Kombat 4 player, so don't take my word as gospel for anything higher level. This video exists purely to get you started and to help you find your feet, I would say. Thank you so much for watching, hopefully this helps you out, and enjoy an introduction to Mortal Kombat 4. So, the first thing that needs talking about in Mortal Kombat 4 are the buttons. Similar to previous games, you have high punch, high kick, low punch, low kick, run, and block. So ultimately, in terms of standalone buttons, not a lot changes. They have different purposes. In this game, the low kick has good range, the high kick has good range. It can work as a decent anti-air from certain ranges, or if they jump and you high kick the opponent, you can knock them out of the air. But the big thing to focus about in this game is that these buttons tend to be universal, and so does the extra moves that you can do, such as holding back and doing high kick will roundhouse, holding back and doing low kick will sweep, and then holding down and doing high punch executes an uppercut. This is all stuff that has been universal for many years, even back then. However, the big thing about MK4 is how so many attacks are universal to every character, and it's not just the standalone buttons. So as an absolute base, they're the attacks we're looking at, but what I want to immediately get into that separates this game are the combo strings. So let's get into that now. So we're going to be talking about combo strings now, which is a very important part of the game. I mentioned universal stuff. That is basically because you have certain combo strings up close, and like a Trilogy or Ultimate MK3, if you're close enough, your attack will go from the standalone button to a combo starter. So when you're at the right range, you'll start doing a different attack that will become the combo string that you're going to perform. So, for example, 2 punches, high punch, high punch. High punch, high punch, high kick. High punch, high punch, high kick, roundhouse. All of these general strings, they work for every single character. So if you're looking for a combo starter, for example, high punch, high kick, down high punch will execute an uppercut. You see there it's 4 hits. And then characters can kind of do whatever ender they please. A lot of the time, a universal ender can be high punch into jump kick. This is just a really, really basic set of combos. But a lot of things can be comboed into themselves. So, for example, high punch, sweep. High punch, roundhouse. It's actually quite free-flowing. And just to reiterate, the big thing about it is that they are universal to every single character. The difference is certain attacks will look different. So Scorpion's high kick, for example, that's not going to be the exact same high kick with every character. And some characters' high kicks and other buttons are different enough that it can allow combos that, if they had a different high kick, they wouldn't be able to do. But if we're doing combo strings up close, all of this stuff, every single character in the game is able to perform. So, down high kick is another ender, although the down high kick has more recovery than the uppercut, so for certain combos, the uppercut's more than likely going to be a better ender. So, that's the absolute, straight away Layer 1. Every single character will have access to all of these combo strings. Some of their buttons may differ in properties, but the execution itself is exactly the same. Now, a big thing I want to tell you here is it's not like previous games where you can do the combo strings really fast, because it won't work. In Mortal Kombat 4, you have to do your combo strings significantly slower. I was doing that 4 hit. You might even be able to look at my input log on the bottom. It's button, 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 button. Like it was duh, 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 duh. That is not as fast, anywhere near as like a Trilogy or an Ultimate MK3. In MK4, you have to do your combo strings slower. So don't get ahead of yourself. Don't try and almost mash the buttons because you won't get it. The important thing to reiterate here is you must do the combo strings slower than the other games. Otherwise, it just isn't going to work. So that's how to do combo strings. Let's talk about special moves and the sidestep mechanic, which was new to MK4. Up next, special moves and sidestep. A lot of characters that came from previous games, their special moves are almost the exact same thing. For example, if you look at the left or the right, I've set it up so that I can see on-screen move list special moves. I would always recommend you do this, especially for MK4, because a character's strength really does kind of depend on what their special moves are and how they work into the game. So the importance of having good special moves is one of the most vital parts of the game at a higher level. Now, with Scorpion, the inputs are pretty much the same as previous games. Back, low punch will be the spear. Down, back, high punch will be teleport. You've got an air throw, which I'm going to immediately go in and execute after the launch. And he's got a new move, Flaming Belch. So this isn't really a move you can use an absolute ton of compared to his others, but executing special moves is the same as previous games, but some of their properties might be slightly different. Scorpion's teleport in this game, for example, the hitbox on it seems to be absolutely massive, which is really big for, you know, certain combos, or if you jump kick, you teleport, you pick him up with a spear. All of that stuff tends to be a little bit more effective in this game because Scorpion just seems to be larger. You know, I might just be talking out of my backside there, but either way, the execution of special moves, very, very important in this game, but also certain special moves that can be comboed. Not everyone has them, but you'll notice I've got the opponent set to block while there is any damage on them. Certain combo strings, you can actually combo into spear and then get whatever you want after. So if I try and keep this one simple, there you go. Stuff like that. Just being able to hit confirm certain things into special moves. If you have a stun and you are able to special cancel your buttons into it, it can really, really help characters and their ease of damage access, even with the max damage mechanic, which I'll be talking about shortly. If you can hit confirm these things, it can be pretty good for you. Sub-Zero's another character. He can combo some of his stuff into freeze and then go, you know, for whatever he wants. I just want to throw that in there because it's a decent tool to have access to. Now, if you want to sidestep, this is arcade MK4, right? It's not like the console versions that have a dedicated sidestep button. The arcade version had much more limited buttons. It didn't have a full pad, right? It was just the arcade stick that had the buttons that you would have in Ultimate MK3. To sidestep, you double tap run. And double tapping run will allow you to sidestep away from the camera. If you're holding down and then sidestep by double tapping run, you will sidestep towards the camera. So the sidestep's pretty important in this game, not necessarily for 3D fighting game reasons. I mean, you can sidestep and avoid projectiles. The big thing is you can really mess with the stage. Characters can get stuck. You can be in weird situations, and a sidestep can often escape those situations where you're not getting stuck up against a wall or something horrible. So the sidestep, you're not going to use it as you would expect in like a Tekken or a Soul Calibur or something like that. It very much still plays kind of like a 2.5D game where it kind of plays like a different version of Trilogy or Ultimate 3. But the sidestep is still good because you kind of have to do it to either avoid a certain projectile or get out of those wall traps where you're right next to each other and you can't move and the whole game just seems to be completely broken. So that's an important use for sidestep. You will notice on the left-hand side, Scorpion has a weapon. Every character has a weapon, and I feel like as this is Mortal Kombat 4 and weapons really were the big hook to this game, they do actually serve a purpose at high level as well. So, without further ado, let's talk about weapons in Mortal Kombat 4. Weapons are a fairly large part of the higher level of Mortal Kombat 4, and to get a weapon out, it's different for every single character. It is essentially a special move input, so Scorpion's is forward high kick. By doing this, you'll get the weapon out, and then you'll get a whole bunch of like new moves that will replace your punch normals. Now, the kick normals are pretty much exactly the same, but the punches tend to be different. You can get different moves by holding different directions. For example, high punch will do this regular slash with Scorpion, holding back will do this. You can hold different inputs as well, like, you know, crouching low punch, for example. That looks weird. Why? If you hold it, you just become a Beyblade for a little bit, because why not? So every character has different weapons, and these weapons get used for different things. If you want to discard the weapon or gain a projectile, do the weapon input again, and you'll throw it. Certain characters can actually combo from that throw, depending on their, you know, special moves. Scorpion, for example, can do his teleport from that. And if you want to retrieve a weapon on the ground, you hold down and press the run button. You'll get the weapon back out, and then you're good to go once again. I was a bit late on the teleport there. I want to just sort of demonstrate that it can be done. There you go. So if I was a little bit earlier, that should have worked, but obviously it's not going to in that situation. Picking up a weapon, by the way, down and run. This actually applies to anything on the floor. If a stage has like a skull or a spiky ball or something, you throw it the exact same way. So important to mention that if you want to use anything on the stage, you do the exact same input that you would pick up a weapon from. Now, you can combo into weapon attacks. A lot of the time it will come from a close knee. So high kick will be your best opener. And then you can do whatever weapon normal you want from that. So this is a good way of comboing into it, is that, you know, should you go for a high kick starter, you can then go for a weapon. That will be a true combo. You can still special cancel things, regardless of whether you're holding a weapon or not. So that's going to be a nice option for getting certain combos that your weapon might now sort of like extend depending on character. And there is a reason I've got Jarek now as the training dummy. I want to demonstrate some of the stuff you can do where the weapon will extend your gameplay possibilities. So while I'm playing as Jarek here, Jarek's is forward high punch. You are able to special cancel into a weapon equip. It's a really fast way of getting a weapon out, and I would actually say it's probably one of the safer ways to get a weapon is to special cancel into it, essentially. And you can do that from almost any combo string that you can do. But the reason I'm playing Jarek is he's a character that has some pretty interesting properties. So should he land his high kick into slash, it's a big launch, and that's just a high punch on its own. You can do all sorts of things from this. That was just a really generic combo, but it did really big damage. And that was just high punch, run in, low punch. Cheeky ground pound, because, you know, if they're still on the floor, you can get that ground pound for extra damage. This is important to mention because he is very much a character that once his weapon is out, he gets a slightly different sort of combo game, I suppose. Even at far range, hitting your high punch, you can kind of get that cheeky three-piece in there just for extra damage. Special cancelling into this can be really nice because, like I said, you get decent combo potential if you get the run at the end. He's one of those characters that his weapon's a big part of his game. But one thing I haven't mentioned yet is that should you get rid of your weapon, you can actually pick up the opponent's weapon if it's on the ground. And now all of a sudden you get access to the exact same moves. So weapons are, I think their intricacies come a little bit more down to the higher level side of the game because different characters with different character weapons extends their gameplay quite a lot. Some characters and their ability to break the max damage mechanic is tied to having a weapon that does not originally belong to you. That's going to be a little bit high level for this video, I would say. Don't worry about that for now. Possibly something I'll cover down the line. But weapons, very important, and different things for different characters is the bottom line there. Another thing that Mortal Kombat 4 introduced was the max damage mechanic. Now, I have to be honest, I think it was a bit of a band-aid fix, just to avoid infinites and stuff like that, but should you do a certain combo, and you break a certain threshold, the combo will automatically end and max damage comes onto the screen. So the threshold is generally anything beyond 40%, give or take. If you hit exactly 40%, it doesn't tend to, at least on arcade, it doesn't tend to automatically end the combo, but anything beyond that will activate max damage and end the combo for you. Some characters are able to do this more than others. The reason I'm actually using Scorpion is because he's a really good character to learn the game with. Mostly because he has many ways to breach max damage. Mostly involving a technique that you've seen me do, these kind of instant high kicks. They're quite tricky. If you mess it up, you'll just jump and do that. But it's really important for some characters to get a jump in when you otherwise wouldn't have time to do it. And by using that technique, you can hit max damage a lot easier. So Scorpion, for example, you know, if I were to do just a regular combo here, which I did my combo string too fast, even that is able to break max damage. But I don't get as much damage as if I were to do my instant high kick first. But again, I'll be teaching you that a little bit later. There's not a huge amount to show with max damage as a basic. I'm going to swap over to Reiko real quick, purely because he's another character that can break it quite reliably. Should Reiko hit his kick, he can break max damage in the exact same sort of way, but only if you do the high kick up close first. So there are quite a few characters that can break max damage and do whatever they want. You have to learn the right combo, the right situation, but it's worth mentioning here because max damage is something that was introduced in this game, and it will stop combos from being too big. For the most part. As I said earlier, there are ways to actually break the max damage and get guaranteed combos that pretty much give you 2 combos for the price of 1. It's a bit too high level for this video as it is a beginner's introduction, so I wouldn't worry about that just yet. For now, just have a look at some combos online, do what you can with it, see if you can hit that max damage threshold, and then try and build it from there. Don't worry about breaking max damage at this point in time. So I think the next thing to show off is really talk about what does the basic everyday game of Mortal Kombat 4 look like. You'll notice you've got low punches, you've got the run, and the run in this game is incredibly fast. Is it just like the previous games where it's all about run jab pressure? Yes and no. So to execute run jab pressure, just on the off chance there are people watching this video that haven't watched previous, or maybe you don't even care about the previous games, if you do your low punch and you run into an opponent that's holding back, if they're not holding back, you'll throw the opponent with low punch. In Mortal Kombat 4, there was actually a new throw introduced, which a lot of people commonly refer to as the Bone Breaker. If you do low kick at close range, you will execute a different style of throw. Most of the time will leave the opponent standing. Now that does have some applications for some characters, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So if you throw someone at close range with your low punch, if they're holding back at any point, even if they're not blocking, they will not be thrown. So the rushdown of the game tends to come from low punches. If you're holding run when you do low punch, you do what we call the run jab pressure. It's different in Mortal Kombat 4 because some of you may even have noticed it already. There is significantly more pushback on a low punch on block in this game compared to previous. So the run jab pressure, it still exists, but it's not going to be the same sort of style as an Ultimate MK3 or a Mortal Kombat trilogy, purely because the opponent is knocked so much further back that it's a slightly different approach of what is essentially the same thing. It's hard to explain, but once you play some matches, you'll kind of start to feel what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to interrupting defensive options to try and get out, whether it's a low poke, whether it's like a teleport to try and escape, whether it's a jump back, anything really that might try and escape that run jab pressure, in previous games you would do kick starting strings. And in this game it works, I would say, a similar method, because high kick on hit or block can still be cancelled into. If you were to special cancel your high kick, by the way, for the purpose of trying to crush this, your special move actually has to come out a little bit later than you think it does. It's not a traditional special cancel, but it will still connect if you time it correctly, but you can't do it straight away, because if you try and special cancel it like that, as in the second the move is hit, you're not going to get a special move. You have to do it a little bit later, and then you'll still get it, right? You'll still get the special move to come out, and it will still special cancel, mostly because there's just so much bloody hit stun on the high kick. So the rushdown exists with the run jabs, but it's not the same sort of thing, because the pushback is just so massive. If you go in for high kicks up close, which are much more important because the opponent's crouching and you try and do your high punches, it's just a bit more clumsy and not as reliable. One big thing I want to mention as well is that should you be up close and do a combo string, like, you know, let's say I'm doing high punch, high kick, you'll notice, because there's a lot of pushback, I don't actually get my third part of the combo string. I don't get the knee that can go into a follow-up. If the opponent's blocking, I actually don't get the whole combo string. If you're trying to do, you know, the high kick into uppercut, you just get a standard high kick on its own. So the pushback on block makes a big difference to this kind of thing, which is why if you're pressuring someone, you want to do high kicks instead, because this will just work. And if you are a character that on block you can combo into something that might be a little bit safer. On hit, if this hits, you know, you'll do your spear or anything else. If you're Scorpion, other characters will get different hit confirms. It all matters in a pretty big way, I would say. And by the way, glitch jabs in MK4, they still exist. If you're doing your chain of low punch or high punch and you just hold block at the right time, you are able to block. I don't really need to demonstrate glitch jabs for another time because I have demonstrated them previously. They do work the same way in MK4. Which is good for anti-airs more than anything else, I would say. If they jump and you hit them in the air, you can teleport, you can spear them, you can knock them out of the air and do something cool. But fundamentally, it's a similar game plan, but not quite. And it all comes down to pushback. However, if you're looking to crush something up close with your mid-starter, high kick is your best bet for most characters. Now, that's the basic kind of what the aggressive stuff of this game looks like. I kind of want to show you a few techniques now because they can be pretty important as well, and then we'll close things out. Right, techniques. The first thing to learn that I recommend people look into is instant high kick. It's hard to time, and to be honest with you, it's a bit tricky to explain. You pretty much want to press them up and high kick at exactly the same time. I'm not 100% consistent with it, especially when you're doing it outside of a combo. It's not really part of my muscle memory. But it's a really important tool to learn because it can allow you to squeeze out much higher damage. So as a basic, by doing the instant high kick, if I'm Scorpion, and I've shown you this already. That was a little bit too early. Oh. World's greatest video game player, PNDK&M. There you go. By using the instant high kick, I got 50% damage on that max damage combo. And in the previous segment where I was talking about various options and max damage and stuff, without using that, I scored, I think, about 41%. So it's pretty big to squeeze out that extra damage. This is different from every character because, again, some characters' high kicks are different. Like Scorpion has the one that goes immediately forward. If you notice, he's sticking his foot out directly in front. Not every character has that. So the utility can be a little bit different. The end result might even be a little bit different. But it's an important technique to learn because although it's weird and it feels strange, it's also good up close, by the way, if I can get it. Yeah, there you go. It's a really weird technique to get, and I'm not a super high level MK4 player, so even for me it's a little bit tricky still, but it's important. And Scorpion's a good character to learn for this, because when you hit his spear, you are heavily rewarded by learning how to do it, because using spear and then hitting your instant high kick allows you to squeeze out a lot more damage. So definitely something worth trying. The next technique I want to show, and I'm actually going to be playing as Jarek for this one, setting him to record, is what characters can get if they hit a bone breaker. So Jarek's bone breaker throw, where he stomps your leg, it's very plus on hit. Because he has an unblockable ground pound, should Jarek be fast enough, hitting his bone breaker will give him a free ground pound. Now this is just one of many examples of this kind of situation, and if I recall, I believe this is only on the arcade version. I've tried testing this on things like Gold on Dreamcast, and I don't think it works. But that just might be me misremembering. But by using a bone breaker throw, some characters can get things for free. Now, in the case of Jarek, this actually goes a little bit further, because if he does this, and I do this, and then I try and block, let's set Jarek to playback. If he hits me with this, some characters can actually punish him on hit. And again, that depends on the character, it depends on the situation, but all of these instances where a character might get something for free, you can still hit them and then, engage your own pressure up close. It depends on the character, what they're going for. Thankfully, because of the training mode and the instant replay function, these kind of situations are easily testable. You can lab them very effectively. But yeah, landing a bone breaker with some characters, it's going to be more than just like a plus situation where you might be able to run in, run jab. Some characters get more utility, but that doesn't mean you don't have options to punish them depending on the character that you're fighting. Another technique in this game utilizes the run, being able to give certain attacks more range on them than you otherwise would have. For example, and this stage is quite handy because we get to see the exact kind of grid on the floor. Do you see the tiles on the ground? If Reiko is standing here in this spot and uses flip kick, he covers pretty much one block. If I hold the run button and execute my flip kick, you'll notice the second I hold forward from that move, which is back, down, forward, high kick, Reiko will actually run. If I run a little bit and then press the button, Reiko will actually perform his flip kick after doing a short run, therefore giving the move a bit more range than it otherwise would have. Now, I will admit, I'm not completely clued into what other characters can utilize a technique like this, but I play a lot of Reiko, and giving him extra range using the run, you simply just hold run and then do flip kick, right? That's how you do it. I pressed the high kick a little bit too late there. But just holding run, taking a forward step, and then just pressing high kick afterwards allows this move to have more range. There are all sorts of little techniques that Mortal Kombat 4 gives you access to that you may not expect them to exist, but when they do, they can be quite important for the character you're playing. Reiko's my main in this game. I really love his combos. I think he's super fun to play, and just having that extra range on one of his most important moves is a pretty big deal, I would say. But in regards to all the other high-level tactics, that's something that's, I would say, a bit beyond what I'm trying to teach you right now. Overall, this was a beginner's introduction to Mortal Kombat 4. I do plan on making these for all of the games, just to help new players get stuck in and just start having fun with these old games, you know. I mean, the patches are coming in. The PC has the beta for the lobbies, which, from what I've played, seem to work quite alright, but I think other people probably have different experiences. You'll have to find out from there. But either way, enjoy MK4. Thank you for sticking around. Hopefully this helped, and I will see you next time. Take care.